just going to be sure all my video and tech is set up, and hopefully I can see the comments soon. Yes, okay, we're good. All right, when you jump in, please be sure to say hi on the chat so I can know that you're here and hopefully say hi back to you. I'm excited to teach this lesson today on how to let go of control. This is something that I know pretty much every woman struggles with. I know most of my clients have some level of this that they're struggling with. I personally have, and we all have varying degrees of understanding, what's going on, why. No, how do I want to say that? We all have varying degrees of awareness that we struggle with control. So I know for me, for a long time, I was like, control is not something I have an issue with. I'm a super laid back person. I am not like type A. I didn't have all the like really overt control symptoms or issues, but the more I journeyed down my healing journey and the more I discovered who I am and how to come alive, the more I realized, oh, actually I have a lot of control issues that I had to kind of work through and deal with. So I'm going to start off talking a little bit about really covert control, and then overt control, like really obvious control issues, control symptoms. So the overt ones would be you struggle to let people do things for you. You are like type A. You have to have a plan and know what the plan is. You get frustrated if the plan changes. If somebody says they're going to be somewhere and they're not there at that time, then you get really, really angry and frustrated. You like to have everything really organized and in place all the time. And some of this is like not inappropriate or not bad. I mean, some of us just do have more type A tendencies, and it's okay. Like I'm going to talk a little bit about like when and where we cross the line. But then some of us have really covert ways of controlling. Like if you think about it, if you are somebody who tends to be a wallflower in a room, like you have to come in and observe what's going on and observe the scene and kind of get a feel for how things are going before you're willing to start engaging in conversation or initiating. That is actually a form of control. That's a form of not feeling safe enough with yourself, not feeling safe in your body, and needing to determine whether or not you're going to be rejected before you're willing and able to engage with other people in the room. If you're not able to speak your opinion, if you're somebody who is more of a people pleaser, or more like you just let everybody else pick dinner, or you let everybody else decide what we're going to do that night, and you just don't ever have an opinion about it, that actually is a form of control. That's a way of keeping yourself out of being put in a position of being rejected, of being seen, of being vulnerable. So it's a way of maintaining control. So like these are all really covert ways, whereas the other ways are really out loud and overt, and everybody knows, oh, that's like a control freak. That's somebody who's super controlling. But these other ways are actually just as controlling. It's just more keeping yourself out of the game, keeping yourself on the sidelines. You won't ask for help. Like you just do everything yourself because it's easier that way, and plus you don't want to be disappointed, and so you just handle everything yourself. So all these are ways that we control. And like I said, I don't know a woman who doesn't struggle with some of these things, or all of these things. Like most of us, our moms were this way. Our moms were over controlling. And so it's like a learned pattern of behavior that we picked up when it's cyclical. So I'm excited to talk about this today, because I'm going to talk about how cyclical it is and how it feeds on itself and how it feeds itself generationally. And at some point we just have to make the decision that enough is enough. We're going to stop, right? So I'm hoping today that as I explain this all out, I explain this to you, that you're going to be motivated and understand like how devastating and how damaging it is, and then more importantly, empower you with the tools on how to stop. So I want you to think about How do you feel when everything is under control? How does that feel for you? So when I kind of close my eyes and think through that and connect with myself, when I know my kids are okay, they're where they say they're going to be, they're doing what they're supposed to be doing, I feel like things with me and my partner are okay. Things at work are like stabilized. When you feel like life is under control, what's going on? Right? It calms our anxiety. We don't feel as anxious. We feel safe. We feel like life is predictable. The things that, hang on, I'm getting a note from my computer. Let me read it. Okay, I think that there's something going on with the framing, so if my face looks squished or something, I'm sorry, I don't know how to fix it, but we'll just keep going. I think you can still see me. I see a couple of people here. Pop in the comments and say hi so I know who you are and we can chat a little bit. Okay, so we feel like life is predictable, everything's in order, we feel like we're safe, our people are safe, everything's going to be okay. Like we have this calming system within our body, so we feel like we're going to be okay, right? That the future is going to play out the way we think it's going to play out, and that's not something we have to worry about. So then we just kind of have this calm sense. Okay. So we have that. That doesn't sound so bad, right? And I would agree. We all like those feelings. That's okay. So now let's think about, how do others feel when they are doing the things we want and need them to do, the things we've asked them to do, they're behaving appropriately, their patterns are predictable, we know what's happening, we know what's going on. How does that cause others to feel? How do others feel? Let's say, I don't know, maybe you're a teacher and you have a teaching partner. Hey, Morgan, if you're a teacher and you have a teaching partner, or Morgan, you're a nurse and you're working with the other nurses in the station. And I don't think you're the kind of person to do this, but I'll just use that as an example. So like, let's say you have a certain way you like all the charts done, you like a certain way you like all of them organized. Hi, oh, how do you say your name? Lean, is that right? Lean? Let's say you like all the charts organized just a certain way in the hospital, and you have an order that you see the rooms and whatever, like, and you feel really good because everyone on the floor is engaging just the way you like for them to engage. Okay, so you feel calm, your anxiety's calm, you're not worried, things feel predictable, everything's in order, so you're feeling really good, right? But how do other people feel whenever that's going on, whenever we're acting that way, when we're requiring the people around us to engage in a way that makes us feel like our worry and our anxiety is calmer? All right, so they feel unseen, they feel frustrated, they feel like they're being treated like children, right? They feel, what's the right word? It's not demoralized. They feel like you don't think that they're capable, right? So it disconnects. What happens is when we get into that controlling place, we're doing it with our kids. Let's say our kids, we require them to eat the things that we want them to eat. We require them to have their room just a certain way. We require them to report to us if they're doing this or that. We have all these specific things. Yeah, that's right, Morgan. They feel like you don't really see me, and this happens with our kids too. Like, you don't really see me. You're just worried about what I'm doing and my behavior. Like, it honestly is a selfish action, right? So the people understand, the way they feel is you're only worried about yourself and the way you feel. You're not worried about the way you're making me feel. So think about our family of origin growing up. So many of us can relate to this feeling within our family. So many of us had families who were very controlling, who were very, the way you looked and behaved was the only thing that was really important. And if you looked a way that was outside of what is acceptable, like if you wore clothes that wasn't approved of, or makeup too early, or I don't know, there's all kinds of things that we that we wanted to do as kids that was absolutely unacceptable, or if our behavior wasn't just the way it was supposed to be, then we were shamed, we were pushed away. Like, it had to be in order, it had to be the control of what our parents wanted. Like, how do we feel in that situation? Right? We felt like we weren't valued. Yeah, Morgan, a lot of it, especially those of us who grew up like in conservative Christian culture, like that was the thing. That's the way all of us were treated, the way all of us felt. And so what happens on the inside is we feel unseen, we feel like we're not trusted, we feel manipulated, we feel like caged animals, we feel like that the adults around us don't think that we're capable. And so what do we do with that belief? We either go into overworking to prove that we're capable and lovable, or we say, screw it, like, you don't think I'm capable, I'm not capable. And so then we're never able to fulfill who we're meant to be, fulfill our potential, because we just don't feel like we're capable. We're full of self-doubt. It fragments families. So when we engage in these controlling behaviors, again, our desire is to create safety, to manage anxiety. Like, it's not coming from a bad place. But when we indulge those needs, indulge our worry, because our worry is to help us feel safe and go into control, then we fragment ourselves, we fragment our families. We lose connection with ourselves, and we lose connection with the people around us. Exactly, Morgan. That's why I'm talking about this. We feel like, yes, I'm glad that you brought that up, because that's exactly where we're going with this. When you create that disconnection, I'll say it this way. So when our moms went into worry and over control to be sure her kids were safe and the life looked the way she needed and wanted it to look so that she would feel okay and she would feel safe, she was going into her head, right? She was overthinking all the things and making sure everything was fine, and so that her family was acceptable and okay. We're not judging our moms for that. That's a generational thing. A lot of us have done the same thing. I'm just describing the phenomenon, describing what's happening. We go into our head, and what happens when mom goes into her head, we can't feel her. We can't feel that connection. And what kids need is connection and warmth to feel safe, right? What kids need is when they are with their caretaking adult, to feel them, to feel their hearts, to feel their love, to feel their connection. And that soothes their anxiety, and that makes them feel safe. That makes them feel comfortable and wanted and secure and happy. That's how the human system works. So what happens when we repeat that pattern? So as kids, we didn't feel our parents. We just know what they needed and what they wanted, but we felt unsafe in our bodies because we couldn't connect to their bodies. They were not in their bodies. And so so that's why now we're still in that like stress response of, I'm not safe, I have to go into overthinking. So obviously, if you've had some trauma, if you've had some really clear, overt life experiences that have put you in a very unsafe position, if you've been through abuse, or if you've been in a really bad car accident, or if you've had an experience that caused you to feel super unsafe, then it makes sense that you struggle and you worry. But there's people who are like, I can't think of any one thing, like my childhood really wasn't that bad, it was fine, but you struggle with control. This is a good reason why. Like, if you grew up with a mom who wasn't able to be in her body and feel safe with you and connect with you because she was stuck in her head, because her mom was probably stuck in her head, because her mom was probably stuck in her head, right? So it's just generationally passed down. So that's why I want to talk about this. It's so important, because if we don't learn how to re-regulate our nervous system, how to calm our stress response, be in our body and feel safe in our body with who we are and just be able to connect to our children, then we're going to perpetuate this pattern. They're going to be around us. They're going to receive the message that the only thing that's important is my behavior, and that will frustrate them. Some of your children will go into overworking for love and acceptance and be very pleasing and do everything perfect, and they're the easy kids to raise, right? Because they're doing all the things that you ask them to do, and it's like, oh, what a joy, you're such a pleasure, this is like the teacher's pet typically, but they're not really connected to who they are. They're just a puppet on a string. They're just playing that role for us so that they can feel a sense of safety, but we're perpetuating the pattern. They're going to repeat it with their children if they don't interrupt it. Or we have some kids who, and I kind of have one of both. The other one is like, screw this, I'm not doing this. Like, hey, you're not going to control me. And they're like wild children, right? Acting out all over the place, and we're horrified. And what do I do? And like, and they're both a reaction to the same thing. Nobody wants to be a caged animal. Nobody wants to be controlled. Nobody wants to be manipulated. This is all about wanting connection. What our kids want from us is connection, just like what we needed from our family, from our parents, is connection, to be seen. What we needed is for their love for me to be more important than the way I looked, than the way I behaved, than the things that I did. But most parents just can't get there because they don't know how to feel safe in their body. They think that if I drop the ball, if I let this go, then something really bad's going to happen, and it's going to be my fault because I wasn't vigilant. But the thing is that's kind of a God complex. Like, you can't worry. Your worry is not going to keep anybody any safer. You thinking through all the things 100 different ways is not going to keep anybody any safer. Like, that is just that's our vigilance. That's our thinking that we can control outcomes when we can't. Right? Of course we can help our kids, like, be self-aware, don't walk in parking garages alone at night. Like, of course we're going to, like, but our when we step over into the assumption that we're not safe and that our kids are not safe, and then hypervigilantly worrying and doing things to ensure that we have some sense of control, it's a false sense of safety. And the cost of that is connection. And the cost of disconnection is dysregulated nervous systems, people who don't know how to trust themselves, just be with themselves, and act as who they're created to be. And it creates a false sense of self that's been perpetuated generation after generation after generation, right? So it's time for us to make the decision, no more. Like, it's time to stop, right? And I know that it feels like everything's gonna fall apart. And honestly, maybe it needs to fall apart. Like, your kids need to feel the weight of their choices. We can't save them from all of their choices. We can educate them, we can help them understand, but if we don't allow them to live their life and navigate it and learn how to make decisions for themselves and trust their decisions and screw up, and if we don't allow space for all of that and for that to be safe and okay to do, and we're going to be here to help them and catch them and help them navigate the fallout of their choices, then they're not going to know how to be adults who are in their bodies with regulated nervous systems, making choices for themselves and just connecting with their children, right? Or even with their boss or it's not even necessarily just about children, but just being a person. So what we're doing is we're living in this hyper-vigilant, unregulated space, and it's exhausting. It's costing us our health. It's costing us our connection with the people around us. So think about this. If your parents were super controlling, what did you do? Maybe some of you, I was more of a pleaser. I was more of I'll figure out a way, but I figured out how to, in front of them, ensure that I fit the box that they wanted me to be in. But then I had sort of a whole other life that they didn't know about, where I felt like I could just be me. And I personally didn't go into like hyper rebellious, like I'll show you, but some people do, and both responses are okay. But what do our children do? And I know we don't want to think about this, and everyone's behavior is their responsibility, but what do our spouses do? What do spouses do when they are controlled all the time by their significant other? Like if you're controlling what your spouse eats, if you're controlling who they can go out with and when, if you're controlling, when they come home from work every day, if you're constantly nagging and controlling and needing them to fall in line with what you want so that your anxiety feels better, what are they going to do? What are they going to do? They're not going to be a caged animal forever. They're going to act out, right? And again, that's right, they don't feel trusted. So what do? Oh, she doesn't trust me. I can't handle being this caged animal. I'm going to act in a way that's not trustworthy. Like he's going to do something to break free. He's going to do something to feel like a man again. He's going to do, and again, I'm not at all, I don't want you to take this into a blame like it's my fault if he does something, but I'm just saying it's a piece of the puzzle, right? Eventually they're going to either leave or act out or do something, like they're eventually going to do something because they don't want to be a caged animal. Nobody does. Just like you didn't want to be one. What we want is connection and trust and love, but it requires us to let go of the need to predict future and have predictable outcomes. It requires us to soothe our own anxiety within ourselves. It requires us to face our own fears within ourselves and not require the people around us to soothe that for us. That's not their job. They can't do it anyway. You can control everything, and you're just going to wake up tomorrow worried about something else. And then you can get that under control and you wake up the next day worried about something else. You cannot externally heal your anxiety and your worry and your stress and your stress response. That is an internal system problem that has to be addressed internally. It cannot be addressed externally. And when we require the people around us to do it, then we fragment those relationships and they will respond. And it probably won't be in a way that's good for us or good for the family. And it definitely won't be in a way that's good for them. And like I said, the pattern just repeats itself. So I know this is hard because it feels so right. It feels so right for us to, and where our brains are so good at convincing us, well, I just need to be sure that they're safe. All I'm doing is being, why is that bad for me to, just be sure everyone around me is safe and my kids are safe? It's my job as their mom to make sure they're safe. Right? It is our job. But are you concerned about their safety from a place of calm, regulated nervous system, love, connection? Or are you concerned about their safety out of worry and anxiety? Because those are two very different concerns coming from two very different places, and they feel very different to our kids. Right? So if you're not sure, then that's when you close your eyes, take a deep breath. Am I engaging in this conversation with my kids, with my spouse, with my boss, with my coworkers because I'm anxious and I'm worried? Or am I engaging in this conversation out of genuine love, care, concern? And sometimes it's hard to tell the difference. If you've lived your whole life in anxiety and worry, then I can definitely see how our brains can convince us that it's just love. Right? So this takes, depending on where you're at with this, depending on how much work you've already done with it, it may take a little bit of time to untwist it. That's right, Morgan. Morgan's saying, she was worried about her kids like having matching socks, like it was a big deal for them to have matching socks, and she's realizing, has nothing to do with their safety. That's just me wanting them to look put together, right? But at the end of the day, who cares if their socks match? Is that worth getting in a fight over? Is that worth disconnecting my heart from theirs because I need them to have matching socks, right? The perfect example. And Maureen, we all have done this 100 different times. Like, is it worth getting in a knockdown, drag out fight, slam doors, we hate each other because they want to eat Fruit Loops for breakfast and you want them to have, avocado toast or something healthy? Like, is it worth it? Right? So, but our anxiety and our fear, like, oh my God, but they're not going to be healthy. And what if they gain weight? And what if it's my job to make sure that they're healthy? Like, that is worry and anxiety that's driving your connection with them, not just calm, gentle love connection. Okay? So, I want you to close your eyes. Take a nice big deep breath. I'm going to take a drink of tea. All right. And I want you to ask yourself, if you have something to write with, and write this down. I want you to ask yourself, what am I most afraid will happen? If I don't worry and control, what will happen? What am I most afraid will happen? And so I did this exercise when I was like writing my notes and planning this, and here's what came up for me. I'm worried it will all fall apart. I'm worried something really bad is going to happen, and it's going to be my fault because I wasn't vigilant. I wasn't on top of it. I don't like feeling unsafe. It feels irresponsible to let go. It feels irresponsible to not worry and make sure everyone's doing what they're supposed to do. Those are the things that came up for me. Just take a deep breath and allow the thoughts to come to you. Like, what if I step back? What's going to happen? What am I most worried about? What am I afraid of? Okay. So those are very real worries and fears. What we come up with is tangible. Like it feels like life or death, right? And the reason is when we had bad experiences growing up and we were it does feel like life or death. Maybe you did have a life or death situation. Maybe you have had a partner, a spouse, a child, a parent die. Like, the cost, the very real pain of some very real bad things that can happen. That is 100% valid. Or maybe you grew up in a home where your parents were very in their head and very worried about just checking boxes and making sure everything was moving forward and everything was taken care of and done, and you couldn't feel them as a child, and that felt very unsafe. And so you don't even know what it is to feel safe with yourself and safe in your body. That's a foreign concept. You've never heard of it before. You've never felt it before. You don't know what that feels like, what that looks like. And so it feels so normal to just be in your head and think through things and worry through things. Right? All of those things are okay. So what I want you to do is take a deep breath and accept there's a very real, valid, good reason why you're at where you're at right now. Why you've been controlling the way you control. Nobody would argue with, if they were to hear your life story, if we were to watch your life play out in a movie, read it in a book, we would be like, yep, that absolutely makes sense. Why she's engaging in so much control, why she feels like she needs to be in control like that. Makes total sense. Right? So we're going to take off and take away any sense of, I shouldn't be here, I shouldn't be doing this, any kind of shame, because that just keeps us stuck where we're at. We can't do anything with that. Right? So I want you to close your eyes and take a really deep breath and just say, I love and accept myself right where I am. I have a very good reason for needing and wanting to be so vigilantly in control. I've had to keep myself safe my whole life. And I've found the best ways I knew how to do that. Right? Absolutely. Just take some deep breaths and say those things to yourself and really let yourself feel what you're saying, because it's true. And then if you're ready, just say to yourself, I'm allowing myself to find a different way. I see that this strategy was effective for a while, but it's causing more problems now, and I want to find a different way. Just see if your mind, your heart, your body is ready to just be open to a different way. You may feel immediate constriction in your body. You may feel immediate, like, nope. Okay, just take some deep breaths and love that part of yourself. Love that restriction, because there's a reason. It's a safety mechanism, right? We can't override a safety mechanism within our body. We have to lean into it and work with it. Those stress responses, and if they've been there a long time, then it's going to take a little time to just breathe, take deep breaths, and embrace that part of you that restricts at the thought of finding a different way. Okay, or maybe it's like, maybe your body's like, maybe. Okay, just take a deep breath and accept that. It's okay. You got to think about it a little bit, question it. And maybe you're just like, yeah, I see the problems, and I'm sick of the problems. I'm experiencing the problems. I don't want any more problems. Right? I want my kids to feel safe with me. And the way my kids feel safe with me is not through me worrying and being vigilantly protective of them in my head, but of them being able to feel me, to feel a connection with me. That is what actually makes them feel safe. It feels so counterintuitive to those of us who have been so vigilant for so long in our heads. We think that we are protecting our kids. We think we're doing the right thing, but that's actually, it's doing the opposite. It's dysregulating them. Our dysregulation is dysregulating them. It's causing them to not feel safe. All right? So, I think what's tricky about this is it's messy. The process of undoing one way of doing something, but not fully having a footing in the new way is super messy, right? And with a situation like this, it can trigger that stress response. It can trigger that, see, this isn't working. Like I have to go back to keeping safe, to keeping safety. But when you're in your head and kind of looking for all the ways that you're not okay, or your kids are not okay, or things are not safe, or you're not being acceptable, then like what we look for, we find. So we reinforce that belief system over and over. So we have to be willing, first of all, if you're ready to just consider a different way, we have to be willing to let it be a little bit messy for a little while and not know. And we're used to feeling shame if we are uncomfortable or unsure of what's happening, because that's the way it works. When you live in your head, you have to be sure of what's happening. That's why we need to control, right? We have to be sure. So if you are in your body and you're unsure, then it can trigger some shame because you're not you're not used to feeling, and it can be overwhelming. So I just want to first of all say it can be when you're ready to do this work, it's you can maybe pick one area of your life to start letting go of control at first, if that feels safer. Like, this is kind of a journey and a process. It's not it's easy for people who live in their heads, and I know this because I was one for a long time. to like, okay, Janice is saying I need to stop doing that, so she's going to give me the 3 steps that I do to stop doing that, and then that's how I'm going to do it from here forward, and then it's going to make sense. Like if we want to regiment it, right? Because that's what makes us feel safe, is by knowing the steps and having it regimented for us. Like, no, it's not going to work like that. This is about getting out. Hi, Kate, welcome. This is about getting out of your head and into your body and just letting it flow and be a little bit messy. And if you have created a relationship with your spouse or your partner or your kids or your parents or your friends where you have needed very much to control your behavior and theirs, if you've needed very much to, then when you start to let go of the reins a little bit, it's going to confuse them. Right? It's going to, so you might need to explain a little bit about what's going on. And I also depending on how bad it's been and how much you've needed to control your kids, and depending on how old your kids are, they may have already picked up patterns of manipulation. They may have already picked up patterns of hiding from you. They may have already started not liking feeling like a caged animal, and so they don't want to connect with you. So if you go home, if your kids are a little older and you go home and you're like, oh, I want to just connect with them, baby, come here, and then they're like, don't talk to me, don't touch me, don't, it's going to take a little time to unwind this from the family system, right? And it's going to require us to be super, first of all, to own our stuff, own our side of the street, own your anxiety, own your worry. Yep, I had very good intentions in the behaviors that I was engaging in, but they are costing, and they have come at a cost already. My family is already responding to me in a way that they don't really trust me. My family is already responding to me in a way that they don't really want to connect to me. Right? And we have to own that and not go into, oh, of course I'm a bad person and I'm a horrible mom and I've known this all along. No, that doesn't serve anybody. That's not where we're going. It's taking a deep breath. Okay, yeah, I thought that I was doing the right thing, but I see now that I wasn't, and I'm going to self-correct it. And then have those conversations with your kids as they're available, if you can, or with your spouse, with whomever. If they're not ready for a conversation with you, then it's all internal work. You're changing the energy with which you show up in a room, and eventually it will play out in a way that's okay. But we'll see how it'll play out. I don't know. It depends on your situation and where you're at and what you're in. If you want to schedule some individual sessions with me to work that out, I'm happy to do that. Also, women in the membership are doing this. You can join the membership, and then there's more and more and more of these classes that will help you figure out how to just take care of your side of the street. And the more you take care of your side of the street, the more your energy changes, the more the way you show up in life with yourself and with the people around you, all that begins to shift and change and heal and grow, and then it changes the people around us, right? But it just takes time. We have to be patient and allow it to take time, allow them their process. Okay, so let's talk a little more about what you can do. So if when you took that close your eyes and take a deep breath. And if your heart is ready to begin the process of learning a new way, again, thank yourself, thank your mind, thank your body for doing the best it could to keep you safe. It found a way to try and soothe and manage anxiety and fear. But now, your body, you would like to intentionally find a new way. You would like to intentionally begin to feel safe within yourself without having to control the people around you. I call it coming home to your heart. You've been living in your head. We've been living in ensuring everything externally is okay because there's chaos inside that we don't like. And so when our external world is calm, it calms the chaos inside. but instead we're going to look at that chaos inside and come home to our hearts. Take a big deep breath and just say, I am safe. Say it over and over. I am safe. I'm safe. Nothing bad is happening right now. I'm safe. And what this does is it begins to soothe your nervous system and regulate it. So keep and this is why self-care is so vitally important. That's what this group is about, is self-care. Why it's so, when our nervous system is regulated, then we can think clearly, we can think creatively, we can find solutions, we can take care of ourselves. And when our self is cared for and regulated, then we don't need the people around us to take care of us and regulate us. We can do it for ourselves, right? And it's normally when I do this, when I close my eyes and take deep breaths and just soothe myself, my mind will pop in with something. It will say something to remind me, nope, you need to be vigilant. Did you change the clothes from the washer to the dryer? Did Johnny come home on time last night? Like our mind will interrupt when we are trying to soothe and regulate. Your mind will come up with something. So what I want you to do, instead of when our mind comes up with something to interrupt that regulation, instead of going, I want you to go, oh, okay, I see mind. I see you're trying to protect me. Thank you. You can write that thought down. That's something that's really helpful in the beginning, especially because it feels so important. But I want you to not let your body attach to that thought. We're going to create some space between. I'm not saying the thought is good or bad. I'm not saying the thought is right or wrong. I'm not saying you should never act on that thought. I'm just saying right now, when you are regulating your system and okay, having some tech issues, so I'll finish the last part of the master class here. But basically what I'm saying is, for right now, allow yourself to set that thought aside, to write it down if you need to write it down, if that helps you, helps your brain disconnect from it and let it go and let it be not so important right now. And come back to your body and just stay with your body. What you're doing is you're training your body, you're training your nervous system to not allow thoughts to hijack anymore, to not allow the thought to go, as soon as the thought comes in, it like hijacks your body, it hijacks your stress response. And oh my God, and we just kind of stay twisted up and wound up. And then we're like stressed out and we're worried and overwhelmed. And all these invasive thoughts are coming in of like, I got to be sure this, and I got to be sure that, and I got to be sure this, and we got to be sure that. And the thoughts are overwhelming our nervous system and we're attaching to them, right? What I'm asking you to do is create some space between the thought and your body, your nervous system, your action. So the best way, like I said, to do that in the beginning is to write them down. Okay, write down the thought. Okay, I need to did I switch the laundry out? Is this going to happen? Do we have food for dinner tonight? Whatever the thoughts are that just keep you wound up, keep you twisted up, write them down. And come back home to yourself, come home to your body, come home to, just keeping yourself grounded. Do an activity off of the self-care list that helps you stay grounded within yourself and connected to who you are. And then when you're in a centered, grounded, calm, adult space, you are fully yourself. You're not acting out of some fear from the past or some fear of the future, but you're just yourself in the present moment. Then you can look at the list and, okay, there's a couple of things on there I need to take care of. Most of it is just worry. that I'm not going to worry about. I'm going to choose to not engage, right? But yeah, we have to train ourselves to not allow our thoughts to hijack our nervous system and our bodies. Create some space between our thoughts, because our mind and our thought lives in the past, being worried and scared about the past repeating itself, or being upset about something that happened that hasn't been resolved, or the future, right? Being worried about something happening in the future. But the past and the future are just, they're not real. The only thing that's real is what's right now, is the present moment. So attuning yourself to the present moment will allow you to just be regulated and calm and be able to think creatively, and to find solutions of whatever's going on right now that needs to be addressed and taken care of. But you're not living in the past and the future that are not really real. They're in our minds, right? Because when we're in the past and the future, we're not connected to a present right now, and that means we're not connected to the people that we love and who love us, the people that we're with. The bond is broken. We're fragmented because we're living in our mind in the past and the future. Okay, so I hope this gives you some tips and ideas on how to begin to first of all, why it's so important to release control, but then also what we can do, what we need to do to start to begin to let go of that control. And the number one key is disconnecting your response system to your mind, right? And start doing that by writing down what your mind is saying. Definitely engage whenever worry starts to overcome you. If you're somebody who just really, really struggles with worry, then I want you to, every time a worry thought comes into your mind, I want you to out loud say to yourself something that you're grateful for, something that brings you joy. Like, oh, I'm so grateful. It's been rainy for me. It's been rainy here for days and the sun is out. I'm so grateful for the sunshine. I'm going to go take a little walk and just feel the sun on my skin. I'm going to do that, right? Just find something that you're grateful for. It interrupts that thought cycle with something that you're grateful for. Then do something for self-care. So interrupt the thought with gratitude. Find some little something. Oh, this tea is delicious. I just moved and I found this tea. I didn't even know I had it, and I found it, and it is so delicious. I'm enjoying it. That's real for me. So this is what I'm really grateful for. Sorry, please excuse my alerts. I'm so grateful for this tea. Oh, okay. Now I will go do something that engages self-care for me. So if you need help understanding what that could be, again, I have a whole list of over 100 options for you in the self-care course. You can take that. The self-care course is free. You can download it from the guide section in the Facebook group, or there's a link for it in my bio on Instagram. You can engage in some self-care, keep your body, keep yourself, you're retraining this whole thing that you are, to not allow those thoughts to hijack you anymore. You're going to stay connected to yourself. Then if there's some things you need to take care of, you take care of them, but you're in a calm, regulated place. You can think creatively about how to get them done. And you're not addressing them from a place of worry and fear. You're addressing them from a place of grounded, connected, centered love, you in the present moment. Right? And those are two very, very different feelings. You can do the exact same task, but take it from a very different angle, and it feels completely different. It feels different to you, and definitely feels different to the people that you're around. All right. Okay, so that's what we're going to do to start letting go of control. I hope this has been helpful for you. Again, sorry for the tech issues. I'm going to see if I can figure out how to splice these two videos together, but I'll figure that out later. All right, ladies, take care of yourselves. If you need or want some sessions with me, there's a link for that. And the membership could be really helpful for you too. It's only $37 a month, and it is a way to receive more and more of these master classes. You have all of them that I've done so far available to you. You have journal prompts available to you. You have a list of books and podcasts that are helpful available to you. And then I send out a weekly newsletter with just some things to work on and tips and what we're working on. And then I have a monthly workshop where we work together going through some things. So for $37 a month, you can't beat that. but it's my goal to have resources available for every woman who needs them. But if you know, like, this is a lot and you have a lot you need to work through, then maybe some one-on-one sessions is the way you need to go, and the link for that is in the description as well. All right, talk to you later, ladies.